Hey, folks, we're back with another great show with James and Angela Holland of Set Apart Farms. How are you two doing today?
We're great. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for having
absolutely.
us back. And it's so good to be back and speaking to you and your listeners again. So thank you.
Hey, it's great to have you. And you know what? It's like we said before we taped. Anything we can do for our veterans. We can never do enough for the best of our nation, our nation's finest, and of course, every veteran that has a spouse, they're a veteran too. They're a part of the deal, and you guys have done
That's
something
right.
incredible. You had your first major event last time we talked with some major names, including John Rich and others, and the enthusiasm and passion about that was sky high. And for those who are seeing you for the first time, James and Angela, tell them what Set Apart Farms is.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Set Apart Farms, a veteran nonprofit organization. We're trying to be set apart, if you will, not just by the name, but with the mission and vision that we're trying to accomplish. And what that is that's involving the entire family in the process. So that's not just taking the veteran out of the unit, giving them some skills, coping skills, things like that, and then sending them back and saying, "All right, make it work." That's not how we train our men and women in the military. We train the unit as a whole. Everybody's present, so everybody knows what's going on. We have to take that same approach when it comes to getting these families fixed, getting them back on track, right? Motivating them, showing them that moral compass, and then just kind of readjusting their azimuth and get them on track. A lot of them are just kind of feel like they're stuck in a rut or spinning wheels.
And we understand because our family was there. We were stuck in a rut. We were spinning wheels. And, last time we talked in 2017, I'll make it quicker this time, but the VA botched James' surgery. And so that's what kind of put us on this path that led to Set Apart Farms was living it, experiencing it, tackling all of those broken systems and realizing that collectively we do not have a voice that's loud enough to be heard right now, because things are not getting done for veterans or their families. And so, we fully believe that God pulled us out of the muck and the mire, not to just okay, you're done, you're good, but to go back for more. And so that's what Set Apart Farms is. It's based on experience, based on what we've went through, and it's a really great program. It's a new approach to long-term healing for veterans and their family as one unit with a mind, body, and soul approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is. And the last time we talked, there was all kinds of grants, all kinds of money for veterans who were addicted to a substance, but there wasn't anything really for veterans who just needed to reintegrate into society and coming off of an injury or a surgery or whatever. I mean, I think you said at one time, they said, well, they can put your wife and kids in a homeless shelter while you're going through our program, but just outrageous what was not there for veterans and their families. And Set Apart Farms, folks, this is something that administers to the whole family. Why women and children don't belong in homeless shelters, okay? But especially with our nation's finest. But you're ministering to the entire family as you're going through the process, not the veteran man or woman going through treatment or a process or a program and then still needing to integrate with the spouse and the children. But you have a very, I would say, holistic family approach in terms of what you're
Yeah.
doing. And
Very
again,
much how we would encourage families to read the Bible. You do it together. You sit
wow.
down together. So you all get the same information, the same context, and the same model for, walking out your faith, right? So, we take that also into this mind, body, soul approach. He's not just going to be eating something different, and the rest of us are like, good luck with that.
Right.
It's health and education for the whole family. Lots of times with our veterans, 9 out of 10, honestly, they're on a lot of pharmaceuticals, unfortunately, because that's one of the things we talked about. Unfortunately, unlike private sector, we do not get access to determine or even a major voice in our healthcare choices. We don't get access to naturopaths. We don't get access to anything outside of what they say. This has been approved, by the government. It's government run insurance. And so in doing so, if you try to go outside of that, there are no resources. And so we want to be that resources for families. Health starts from inside. So it's a mind, body, soul approach. It matters what you eat. It matters what you watch together as a family. It matters what you listen to together as a family.
Wow.
At one point they had James, this was VA therapy, playing video war games as part of his therapy. Honestly, they suggested that he relax and unwind to do that. that was not something I could participate in. That was not something that was
Mm.
healing him or, getting to the root of any of those wounds. It was straight escapism.
It was very
Right.
going, yeah, internal. And you brought up a good point about the food. So you'll see sometimes you'll have a veteran that'll get pulled from the family, going through an entire life change, and they teach even a different way to eat, right? Let's change your whole diet. And then when you send them back home, they're supposed to convince the rest of the family to stop eating the Fruit Loops and the
Right.
Coca-Cola and
Right,
get on
right.
my program. You see how there's already a divide there. Now, oh, that's dad's thing or mom's thing. That's what they're going through. No, no, no. We're taking in the whole family. We're going to do a lifestyle change, because what that also does is set up future generations. It's teaching these children, teaching that veteran family, that family, how you cope with things as a family. You talk through it. You don't just go separate ways until long enough, enough time's gone by where we're just not going to talk about it anymore. That's not fixing the problem.
Right.
So it's really breaking through those generational curses and teaching the children that this is how a family gets along. This is how, you don't always see eye to eye, even as a married couple, but you can disagree in a very healthy way. And you can, at the end of the night, come back together. And that's what we want to teach.
It's really a lifestyle change, and one of those important aspects of food is growing it. And we saw that, over the last 2 years. It was very hard to get to grocery stores, and the grocery stores didn't necessarily have what you were looking for. And if you're relying on them to be able to provide for you during that time, you could have found yourself in a lot of trouble. And so agriculture in Texas is very important. Agriculture across the nation is important. So having that agricultural component where it's reteaching these things that God already put in the Bible for us, right? Growing our food, being able to understand that we are capable of doing those things, and then the satisfaction and healing that it can bring to a veteran and their family as well.
Right?
So therapeutic to know I was able to complete this, I was able to eat this, and now I'm being able to provide for my family by growing food while I'm getting everything else in order that I need to get in order for them.
Right. And you see the process from beginning to end. You're planting the seed, you're watching it grow, you're taking care of it, and then you're actually reaping the fruits of it. It is very therapeutic, because it can get very, like, whenever I went through my situation for about 18 months, I was literally a professional VA patient. So 6 days a week, we were from appointment to appointment to appointment. And that was my life.
And that was in between long stretches of bed rest for the surgeries and manipulation therapies that he needed.
Right. There was no goal. My goal was to make sure I made the next appointment. And that was my whole life. And it was there was no satisfaction in anything I was doing. Once we got away from that and got into nature, I started to feel again. I started to feel happy again. And it was very therapeutic and life changing, especially the nature part of it. Getting out and breaking
And
away.
you weren't relying on pharmaceuticals for
Right.
that, serotonin
Right,
release.
right.
It was what God gave us as our playground to begin with.
Absolutely.
That's amazing, because so many times, we in America, we want to medicate everything, and there's side effects, and then there's side effects that don't agree with the other side effects. And then it's
Mhm.
kind of a snowball. I mean, it causes a huge problem. But I wish that your program was available in every state in the country. My gosh.
It will be. It will be.
So shall
That's
it be.
That's definitely
Yeah.
the mission that God has put on our hearts, is that it's time for healing in this nation for families while the opportunity is there, and so we should act upon it. You know, raising up and elevating veterans to where they were before they got out.
Mhm.
They were proud and good ways of the services that they were doing and their work for God, and then all of a sudden now, you see them lost, and you see people, oh, you're a veteran family, I'm sure it's hard. And
Right.
it is. And so we don't want to take that stigma of that something is hard that breaks you. Something is hard makes you, right? When you come through the end of it, then you're able to look back and see how far you've come. And so we're also looking at the end of this to have veterans and their families be the leaders that they've always been.
Yeah, set the example. That's the thing about it, is it's educating the families, re-educating these veterans, as well as the community out there, society on. They hear it every day. They're different. Oh, you've been to combat. Yeah, of course we're different. I'm different today than I was yesterday. You're different today than you were yesterday. You may have saw something,
Wow.
heard something. We're gonna evolve and change every day. So yes, veterans, you are different. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's in a negative way or a bad way. right? I'm different now than I was 5 years ago or 4 years ago, definitely in a positive way.
Or you hear the, where you have PTSD. Yes, but don't most of us have trauma? I mean, I
Oh,
showed
yeah.
up into our relationship
Yeah.
with trauma. And so it's taking those stigmas and putting them in context. PTSD is just a form of trauma, right?
An umbrella.
It's an
What it is.
umbrella, and a lot of things fall under that umbrella. And so that's why that mind body healing. I'm in a lot of spouses groups, and they're always referring to the veterans' PTSD. And I said, you have to stop. It's their trauma. And as a spouse, wouldn't you support them if it was any other type of trauma?
Right.
And so let's look at it in a way that's healing rather than puts off a stigma that they have to have this label from here on out.
Right.
You
And
don't.
one of the interesting facts about that, when we talk to a lot of these veterans, these families, is the veteran will believe they're different, right? And they'll get that in their mindset, and they're really not. And nothing's really changed from the way they were to where they are now. They just have a life experience. And what we've noticed with a lot of it, the trauma, when you really get to the root of the trauma, it happened pre-service, pre-military. A lot of military people are in the military because they're running from something, poverty, abuse, something, right? And so then when you really get to it, so all the
Right.
military did was that traumatic experience that happened in the military, all it did was amplify
Right.
the root of the issue. You see, we got to break through all of that in order to get down to the root and really get you focused and like I said, get that moral compass kind of readjusted, shoot that azimuth and push you out on your way to be successful. And we do that as the whole family. But that's really interesting when you really start to break that down. Then you're like, oh, wait a minute. So the root of this was before they even went into the military. So then now you can't tell me that it was the military that caused this.
And how did we learn this? By us going through it, right? And by the people that were
Wow.
going through it with us,
Right. So we just have to educate them.
I wonder. First off, have you written your book yet? That's what I want to ask. Secondly, you
Working
need
on
a
it.
podcast for veterans and their families. Thirdly, you ought to do marriage workshops for veteran couples because
Well, yeah,
you're offering
absolutely.
something that, of course, this government doesn't offer. You can be anything you want, but Christian, in a lot of these circles.
Yes.
When I went to government counseling, because James, a lot of people don't know, we don't, we're saying it right now, but James was also dealing with issues looking for brotherhood in ways that he should, motorcycle gangs, right?
Right.
And
Clubs.
so, sorry, motorcycle club. And so that's where we were when the Fisher house happened, when his surgery happened. And so we were facing divorce as a couple. So people
Wow.
look at us now, we're going on 13 years of marriage, and people look at us now and say, well, you're great. We're better. We're still learning. We're a work in progress, but we were facing what other couples are facing. We were facing divorce, and I went to government counseling for it. And the two women that I spoke with, they advised me to divorce James when I didn't
This
ask.
is two separate occasions. This was VA therapists, mental
Right.
health therapists.
And clearly, after the second one, I said, oh, okay, this isn't working. And we were able to find faith-based counseling. And faith-based counseling, especially for me being a former pagan, not having any understanding of Christian values and
Right.
concepts, still thinking I was good, but realizing how far from good I actually was. I didn't really understand mercy and forgiveness and biblical love, agape love, being an action-based love rather than the westernized version of a feeling.
Right.
And so faith-based counseling, right, allowed me to actually work through forgiveness and mercy where it was not offered to me through the government system. And that could have been the difference if it were somebody else from divorce or fighting for their marriage. It wasn't someone else, it was me, praise God. But so faith-based counseling is definitely something that we are advocates and supporters of. It will also be, included in the program, because working through those concepts biblically is really life-changing for your family, for yourself,
Yeah. And the program where it's not just for the veteran to do that. It's the veteran gets their own special, their own counseling, private. And then the spouse does as well. If the children would like to do it, they also get those services provided.
Right.
And then you also have the veteran and the spouse to do the couples counseling, and then the whole family. So it's a whole package deal. And we see
Wow.
that was some of the gaps that were there. And like Angela's saying, I mean, we weren't in a very, being in a 1% motorcycle club and having a family, it doesn't go together very well. I'll tell you that right now. We were at odds with each other. And again, like Angie said, I was looking for that it felt normal to me at the time. If you think about it, if you got 6 guys going down a highway in California and you got to pull over and get gas and you're wearing a patch on your back, you have 3 guys getting gas and another 3 guys are holding security. That felt normal. That was like that was like being back on
Right.
patrol again
Right.
in
Right.
Iraq or Afghanistan. Going to Target with my wife and 2-year-old daughter, I was in sweats. I was in cold sweats. I couldn't deal with that. That wasn't normalcy to me. And again, it was just an adjustment. That's all it was. Most of my problems were adjustment disorder, you know, and that's what a lot of veterans have an issue with is, look, we have them over there running and gunning with America's finest, right? And then we bring them back here to the States and we're trying to, you know, sell extended auto warranties. It's not going to match up, okay? There's a problem. There's an adjustment disorder there. And even going right into a civilian job like I did, great organization that I went to work for with FedEx, but the work ethic wasn't there. It was different. I could
Right.
see it in everyone. And I didn't mesh. I didn't match.
Wow.
And that's what a lot of these guys are feeling. And we just have to show them that's okay. It's an adjustment. So adjustment is just that word. We adjust it. We can move it. We can move you one way or another. We can adjust you. You're not frozen and stuck in, you know, in time underneath this big PTSD umbrella. We can break through and get to the root of some issues and make you successful. That's the goal anyway.
Well, it sounds like you're teaching people not only to have victory in their recovery and their readjusting and their reacclimating to life here back home, you're helping everyone become more victorious in this battle of good and evil, light and darkness for souls. My gosh, talk about a treasure trove within both of you of your experiences. You know, back to the advice you were getting, Angie, you know, to divorce your husband, you know, without Jesus, without God, without faith, there is no hope. You know, there is no hope. But I tell you what, you know, some of us live in a constant state of alertness, and that's not bad either. There's a difference
No,
between
right.
fear and anxiety and being alert, as well as there's, you know, I don't walk in fear, I don't walk in anxiety, but I do walk with my eyes wide open, and you know, Americans are waking up to the battle that you've seen for many years already, you know, James, and you know, your average police officer knows the battle between good and evil. Angie, you know, your background, which
Yeah.
you mentioned, you know, paganism. Not everything's paganism. They call paganism. You know,
Right.
if you like Norse mythology, it doesn't make you a pagan
No,
necessarily.
it's
You know,
history.
but you're very
Yeah.
aware. But you know, all you have to do is look at you two. You guys are filled with light. I'm so excited. I mean, and I just keep thinking as you talk, you know, it's not just the veterans and their families that can stand to benefit from being involved with you and what you have to do. Are you doing a podcast right now for
We
veteran
keep getting, man, we're getting thrown every day. We keep getting,
We're not yet, but you know,
we will.
and we will. And as you were saying, that's another component of Set Apart Farms that we're never going to shy away from is
Right.
that we're in a spiritual war.
Yeah.
Okay. Our faith was huge in this. Like you said, you know, I was a pagan for 20 years, unfortunately. When this happened to us at the Fisher House, I was speaking against the Bible. I was speaking against Jesus in favor of, you know, pagan writings and documentation. And,
Right.
you know, he chose me. You know, it breaks my heart. I didn't choose him first, but he chose me. And that scripture tells us, right? We love because he first loved us. And he showed me that love, and he showed me, you know, what he wants for his people. And so, yes, this starts with veterans, but it extends to every Christian, every believer that has eyes to see and understands that now is the time to protect your families and get ready because things are coming. We were already given a preview of that. And we can't be afraid or shy to speak
Right.
about the things that are happening, you know, regarding our world and faith, because ever since Genesis 6, the physical and the spiritual became intertwined.
Right.
And so it's been playing out ever since. And the things that we're seeing with these pharmaceuticals inundating our strongest men and women and putting them in this state of, like you said, stuckness, you know, being stuck. That's
Right.
part of the spiritual war. When we help wake up our fighters, things change.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah. And with that, I mean, you know, there's two of the most deadliest things to a tyrannical system is an honest journalist and your men and women of the military, because we've been trained. We can unite, we can organize. Look at what happened with the withdrawal in Afghanistan.
Gosh.
The United States government even underestimated veterans, because look at how many veterans all of a sudden started pulling bodies out of there that the government said they could not do. And these were individuals organized on their own. These are individuals that are already out of the military, and we were able to get planes on the ground within 12 hours and start evacuating.
So effective, they had to be stopped.
Right. So how do we stop that?
Yeah.
Well, we keep them dumbed down, and we keep them unhealthy, and we keep them thinking that they're not right. You made a statement a while ago about being hyper alert, having a hyper alertness, and how it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
You're absolutely 100% correct. But veterans will have that stigma on them that if they're hyper alert at a place, there's something wrong with them.
Oh no.
You've been trained. That is a thing. Many civilians will trade a lot of money to go somewhere and get training to try to even come close to having that type of muscle memory and that type of reaction. You have it. That you should be proud of that. I'm proud of my hyper alertness for sure.
Well,
but there's nothing wrong with it.
No, well, no, it's not. It's a strength. But see, again, when you're dealing with a treasonous dictator situation, and you're dealing with forces of darkness and their arm on the earth, which is the mainstream media, and what we're doing right now is warfare. We're taking territory back from the prince of the power of the air. I don't want just our territory back. I want all his territory too. And I'm taking it. I'm taking it on secular stations. I'm taking it.
That's right.
But all
well,
that,
I know the enemy pretty well. I know a lot of their deception and their tactics and the interweaving and the two truths and a lie. And God is raising up a lot of former New Agers and pagans. He's pulling us into the word right now because it's time. And so I like to think of it as that, I was undercover for 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm excited about you two for a lot of reasons. Set Apart Farms is just one of them. And again, this day and age, when you live for the Lord, you're a walking monument. You're a testament, a testimony to the world. When you choose to be married in this culture and have a good marriage, that's a big thing, and then of course, when you're helping others and you're living a life of contribution, for the first time since AD 315, 317, 314, depends on who you talk to, the church was let out of quarantine. Constantine combined all the pagan religions and called it Christianity. And he took the Christians out of the streets, out of the marketplace, out of the homes, into money boxes. And there you go. And after God's done good with the church, he's done good with his scripture. However, the church was let out of quarantine and back out into the streets, back out into the casinos, the bars, the Walmarts, the airwaves, because the word of God will not be chained. It will not be confined to little boxes where for too long people have come to escape the world, when really Jesus called us to be strategic bases to invade the world with the love of Jesus Christ. And so as we fight this battle and as we take territory back from the prince of the air, as we walk in victory, it is wonderful to lock shields with people like you who get it. The enemy never sleeps. And for those of us who have experienced the enemy up close and personal, and for those of us who've been on the battlefield, you've been on the battlefield, I wasn't on the battlefield. But I was trained by a war correspondent, and I was a counterterrorism reporter. I've seen some things, been some places, and I'm telling you what, darkness it abounds, but where there is light, darkness has no place. And you two are a powerhouse for not only for veterans, but also for the kingdom of God. I'm excited for what you're going to do and all the things that you're going to speak to. Today's show is about Set Apart Farms, but we have more shows to do as well. But I'm so thankful for you two and your contribution to our country as a couple. Angie, a friend of mine, he's a great leader. He said, behind every good man is a surprised woman. But James is a good man. But if it wasn't for our wives, brother, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And we're able to do what we do because we have an incredible woman, a warrior woman And
I
I'm
do,
just thrilled
100%.
to know you. So anyway, folks, go to the link on the bottom of your screen, get behind this effort, put your money where your mouth is. You know, that $8 trip to Starbucks to a company that supports the demise of everything good and everything in our country. Folks, you could be put into Set Apart Farms, you know, for that fast food drive-through that you do. You can drop a few pounds and help veterans and help families. But I have a feeling that your reach is going to be far beyond veterans. You have so much to say and so much.
You know, God is on the move for his people and for families. And that's really where it starts, is in your home with your marriage and your family. That's how we get the kingdom of light spread all across the nation, is by the family unit.
That's right. And showing these veterans, because a lot of veterans and veteran families are kind of pulling away from the church and Christianity because, right, it seems that there's some type of weak stigma to it, right? This weakness to it. I'm here to tell you, don't believe the stuff you see on TV. I'm a Christian and I'll beat the demon out of you. Okay, it's a warfare.
We're from the tribe of Phineas.
Yeah, let them mess around. I love Phineas. I love Maccabees. It's a manly war. You can be a man. You can be a Christian. You can say you love God. You love Jesus. And like I said, still beat the demon out of somebody.
Right.
And all the while praying for them too, by the way, you know.
Well, that's what I've said before too. Brant, what about love? Hey, you want to hurt my family? I will love you and lead you through the prayer of salvation as you're bleeding out, because I love them more than I love evil, and I will fight to protect it. Folks, we're all in a war, and you're fighting for somebody. Like Bob Dylan said, it might be the devil, it might be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody, because you are, whether you realize it or not, and you are a soldier or you're a pawn. I choose to focus on the lions, guys, as you do.
And we're here to fight with you.
We'll let the sheep be sheep, but it is time that God's lions come together and lock shields fearlessly, because you know what? You can't kill a dead man. Galatians 2:20, I've been crucified with Christ. I no longer live, but Christ lives within me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. If I die, I win. If I live, I win. And that's we're in this together. We have more shows to do. I have a feeling you have your own show to do as well. So James and Angie, God bless you too, and Set Apart Farms. Folks,
always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. God bless.
We'll see you next time. God bless you, and God bless America.